It was a while back that I had this uh, organized thoughts around the conditions of suffering, the things that we have to deal with in life, and I sort of organized them into three baskets. Let me see if I can recall that they were um, things that happen uh, to our bodies, things that happen out there in the world, and things that happen like in our minds. As like three categories of conditions that we deal with. The outside world being everything, to turn on the news, you get it. The stuff that happens out there that we will suffer about. The suffering that happens to our physical body is like aging or sickness. And then the suffering that happens from our own minds, like, creating stories and having anxiety and depression and regrets and, I don't know, fixed views and arguments and things that we feel passionate about and all that stuff. And of those three, I declare there was like really one that we could really do, have a whole lot of agency over, or have the power, the will to kind of like manage, and that would be our minds, which is a focal point of what we do in Dharma practice in Buddhism. To become aware of how we suffer because of the things our own minds create. We try to get a handle on them. So I want to talk on the front end a little bit tonight, and we'll meditate on the back end, and then I'll leave some room for comments and questions and answers. And tonight's going to be a multimedia event, a little bit, because I want to show you a picture. If you were here early, oh, that's the other offering, by the way. Show up 15 minutes early, and we have a little time for fellowship and community building. It's an important part of Buddhism. But I don't take away from this group and do the breakout rooms and stuff like Noah does in his, maybe some others. But totally encourage people to show up early and just have casual conversation. And sometimes I hang out late too. Okay, back to the matter at hand. This picture I want to show you. Just maybe just soak this in for a minute. That is a North American bison. And clearly it's wintertime. And the unique thing about bison, few animals do this, is that when a snowstorm comes, they don't run from it. They don't seek shelter. They turn and face and go directly through it. He doesn't look too thrilled about it. But the bison knows that turning and going head on through a snowstorm is the quickest way to get on the other end of it. And they've evolved and they're somewhat set up. You can see they have these massive heads, and they can kind of sway from side to side and push themselves through it like a little bit like a snow plow. Well, I see that picture and I think about resilience and the difficulty that we might be faced with. Running away from it, sometimes appropriate, until you can find a safe enough place to gather some strength. But eventually we have to allow things to either roll over us or we turn around and face it and get through things. Seems like one way or another, we're going to get through difficult times. Sometimes we even run and hide from things, from our childhood all the way into our later years as adults before we realize we can turn around and go through it. And, if we don't have giant heads like the bison, maybe we have, I don't know, therapists instead that can help us, weather that kind of force. So then I started thinking about other forces that we work against in nature and stuff. And I'm sort of like, clearly building on parables and things. But I'll tell you this kind of fun story. When I was in my 20s or so, I had a share of a houseboat. And I mean, believe me, this was a fucking pirate ship. It was just a party scene. And myself, my brother, and a couple other animals, literally what took the houseboat and a few others, and we ganged up and raised the pirate flag. And God help anybody that would happen to camp next to us. I owe a lot of amends to people I'll probably never meet. The one of our partners was a garbage man in Hillsboro, in the Bay Area. I don't know who's familiar with this area, but very affluent, lots of money. Hillsboro is like Atherton or Portola, like super rich areas. And he was a garbage man there. Interesting thing about being a garbage man in a super rich area, you put in a request for something, it'll show up on the street. I mean, fucking anything. Imagine it. So we needed stuff for a houseboat. Like, hey, we heard solar panels are pretty cool. Can we get like some golf cart batteries and solar panels? Because coming right up. Next time we go up there, he's sure as shit he'd gather solar panels and a battery that made solar panels. How about a water slide? Yep, fucking water slide. A water slide. People are gonna put a water slide out for the garbage man because he'll take it. And it ended up on our houseboat. Not by request, but one time our garbage man friend brought a little sailboat up there. Because I don't know who imagines that a sailboat is going to be picked up by a garbage man, but I guess when you take care of your garbage man, they'll take care of you. So he brought this little sailboat up there. I remember it because it was called a snark. It was a one-person sailboat. And he kind of sat on top of the thing, and it was kind of messed up, obviously. So from my surfboard patching days and stuff, I figured out how to make this thing sea or at least lake worthy, and had a sail, and we stitched it together. It was time to kill on the beach up there. I had no knowledge of sailing whatsoever. We had power boats, and time to kill. So I figured it out. I got this little boat, and there was a key. I made a plywood keel because I didn't have one, and I stuck that thing in the water. It's like, okay, that's how it stays upright. And then you go out there and put the sail up, and you turn that thing perpendicular to the wind, and down you go, man. You're simple. You haul ass downwind. And pretty quickly, oh shit, how am I going to get back? And I can't tell you how I came to figure it out, but I did realize by turning that boat just right into the wind that I could make it from one side to the other and at least not lose ground anymore. And then if I was really careful about it, you get the rudder just right and you get the sail just right. And sure as shit, you start zigzagging back up the lake and you can go upwind. And you get good at it, you can go upwind pretty fast. You just have to dial it in just right. With wind heading the direction I don't want to go, heading upwind. I just thought that was so fascinating. If you hung around here for a while, I get fascinated by seemingly obvious things. I understand how an airplane works, and I just heard that we had an airline tragedy, so this is no reflection on what's going on there. But I could never understand how an airplane wing works, why it works. I get it, there's negative pressure and it creates lift, and it lifts this massive thing that would otherwise drop like a brick out of the sky. So these forces of nature that work against themselves somehow. So I needed downwind pressure to go against it. If there was no wind at all, if the wind just stopped, I wouldn't be able to get back where I came from. It would be nice and calm and beautiful on the lake, but I'm not going anywhere. I actually needed to move upwind. So here I am thinking about Bison going into snowstorms and my snark going upwind. And then I was like, how does Buddhism apply to this? And I was like, well, it's really all through it. It's the nature of exactly what we're studying. Now, we could look at the Four Noble Truths and say, okay, well, the Buddha said there is suffering in life. That's pretty obvious. Then the Buddha says, well, we make suffering worse by craving for it to not exist. We have natural tendencies for survival that tell us that pain is bad and pleasure is good. And our minds are inclined to hate pain and to only want pleasure and to only have pleasure. Then there's another sort of like science of Buddhism that says all things are conditioned by something before it. Know this, know that. So if there was no suffering, there wouldn't be any craving. If everything was just pleasurable all the time, we wouldn't crave for anything more. Or is there suffering because there's craving? So now we're in this kind of cycle. And it's hard to imagine that, right? Like we create our own suffering through desire to be pain-free, or not age, not get sick, things not go our way. So do we create suffering, or does the suffering create the craving? Chicken or the egg story, right? Then I started thinking about the Buddha. And the Buddha's story goes from a life of pleasure. I'm going to give you the super short version. Had a life of pleasure, had everything going for him. He wasn't happy. Then he went to a study of these forms of meditation where torturing himself was the answer to be freed from this body that dies and has pain. Figured if he could relieve his mind from the body, they would be separate and he would be liberated and enlightened. But he wasn't happy. So then he went to go sit under the famed Bodhi tree and work it out. So he's going to discover the way of not suffering from either extreme. And in that process, there's the story of Mara. Mara, I don't know, is it Buddha's answer to like the devil? Yeah. Maybe. Seems like, religion has sort of turned it into that, but I want to maintain that uh, that Mara was a personification of the Buddha's own fear and doubt and lust and everything that was distracting him from having a peaceful existence, freed from desire and discontent. So the story is that Buddha is bothered by Mara as he's trying to work it out, sitting under the Bodhi tree, and Mara comes with armies of violence and tries to scare him away, and that didn't work. And he comes with this sex and lust and everything wonderful, and it was threats and bribes, right? It wasn't working, and then ultimately Mara came and just like got really cool with him and just said like, everyone's laughing at you, man. You're never going to pull it off. Just give up. This is stupid. You're never going to do it. And that was doubt, right? Doubt was this ultimate weapon. And Buddha defeated that as well. He goes, yeah, nope. As earth as my witness, as my just being, it's good enough. So the question came to mind in this theme from Bison to sailboats and everything else of like, and suffering and craving, is that the Buddha needed Mara to attain enlightenment. No Mara, no Buddha. So was Mara a bad guy? Because without him, we wouldn't have these teachings. Buddha wouldn't have had the compassion or the ability to see the world that was suffering and understand that they were being faced with this same thing, maybe just not so acutely. But he was able to understand what was going on in his own mind and in the minds of everyone. But without that challenge, without that pressure, it wouldn't have been realized. If everything was going swimmingly, nothing would have changed. Evolution doesn't happen without a problem. Wonder how those bison got that big snowplow head, or how sailors managed to get across the planet. They had to be going upwind. So therein lies the balance, right? How do we know? How do you know if the challenge you're facing now is going to do you in? So far, nothing has. We're all here. All the awful shit that's happened to you so far, you're still here. And I don't know. I don't know how much of a choice it is that our minds continue to torture us over the things that have, people that have done us dirty, the things we've done wrong, the awful moments we've been through, or even the wonderful times we've had that we wish we could have back again. That's just our minds doing that stuff. And recognizing it, I think, seems to be uh, the diagnosis, the antidote. And this is how Buddha talked about Mara too. We would often hear the phrase, I see you, Mara. It wasn't so scary. It wasn't anything outside of himself. He was just able to recognize, oh, that's just the way it is.